Roosbe, please find your seat. Hi everyone. Welcome to another Persian Tech Network event in June. I'm Ahmad Reza Masroor, part of Persian Tech Network. I'm super excited for our today's event and listening to our startup presentation as well as the fireside chats. As you know, we will start with startup presentations and then follow the program with fireside chats. The first one is with Reza Zadeh from Matroid, and then we continue our event with Golnaz Abdullahian from Dalby. As you know, we are a community in tech and entrepreneurship, so let's contribute to it and ask your friends to join us if they are interested, if they have startups, and if they are willing to share their journey with us and with the community, please ask them. We are broadcasting our event on LinkedIn, YouTube, and Telegram, so everyone can join us and watch the event and benefit from the community. Kindly spread the word and follow us on LinkedIn and scan this QR code. Without any further ado, I want to invite the first startup presentation, Eileen Health. Marzieh is the CTO and co-founder, will tell us about her company. Marzieh Jan, please go ahead and please join me in welcoming Marzieh. Thank you.
Thank you so much. It's great to be here and pleasure to present Eileen Health. Our slogan is Make Incurable Cancer History. I'm based out of Toronto, Canada, and my co-founder is in Germany. Our company is Austrian-based, and there are some political reasons why it's Austria, but the idea is basically tackling breast cancer, one of the most common cancers, number one killing reason for cancers right now across the world. So uh, we are focusing on interval breast cancer in particular because it's one of the most progressive ones, and it usually misses between two screenings. And the screenings happen biannually, which means 48 months. And and it usually happens in young women, Black women, and women with family history. And in Black women, it's actually the chances are double the white woman. And one of the are basically um, distinguishing um, tapping on the health equity in this startup. And the other problem is that radiologists, they have to read 40,000 images per year, and imagine how many they have to read in a day, and it basically leave them burned out and very, very tired during the day. There are a lot of false positive recalls. They ask patients to come back after 6 months and 12 months, while the screenings are usually 48 months or 2 years, and it puts a lot of expenditure on the healthcare system, as well as the psychological burden on a patient or like a woman that has to go back to for another screening. And we are trying to use AI to uh, you know uh, help radiologists to detect uh, cancer and also make prediction or prognosis on the future image of a breast. So our technology basically uses the previous images and provides, based on the history and factors like genetics, it predicts the future image for a breast, and it basically reduces a lot of recall for radiologists. And it's explainable. We use biomarkers that it's backed by research, and I can provide links later if anyone wants. The recent discovery that we have as we are navigating our path through this is working with oncologists as well when they create a treatment plan for a patient on a tumor board, it's called. So they have to come up with a plan that, uh, you know, um, it consists of a lot of screenings and a lot of like MRIs or mammography during this time. And there is a method, it's called neoadjuvant therapy, which they basically try to find the pathological complete response, which is basically the response of the patient to treatment. And that's actually one of the things that we realize we can help with oncologists to predict the complete response using our technology with AI. And I just, our pipeline includes of computer vision and CGAN, which, that's our key differentiator, which is prediction of the images and also the detection part, and also, providing an urgency score for radiologists to see the, grade of the disease. So right now we are working on um, a data set which includes 25,000 patients. It's available online. It's free. It's provided by Karolinska Institute. And we are also in discussion with Segmet to buy data from them. And the next step is we have also an agreement with Mayo Clinic. They're willing to provide us 33,000 patient data, and we will be co-developing our product with them. And basically, you know that Mayo Clinic is leading cancer research center across the world, and it would be our competitive edge, basically having the data from Mayo Clinic. And so we are right now we're focusing on breast cancer, but in the future we definitely want to tackle other cancers, including lung and brain. And the market that we are looking at is basically 4.4 billion with the CAGR of 7%, and and all cancer types is about 130 billion. So we are aware of our competitors, and as I said, our distinguished factor, other than being focusing on prognosis, it's also working with oncologists and during, for the on the tumor board and during the cancer treatment plan with the oncologist. There are some. There is one unicorn in the market. We're aware of that. But, we also have our, distinguished factor, as I mentioned before. And right now we are this pre-seed round. We have some grant money, but we're looking into funds. We recently hired an AI team. We have 4 data scientists that are working with our machine learning engineers, developing our model and improving it, getting ready to go to Mayo Clinic by the end of the summer. And we'll be submitting our product to FDA by second quarter of 2025. And hopefully in 2026, we'll have the market launch. And for the first year, our AR will be 1 million, and the second year will be 3 million. And we would like to start launch our product in the US. As I said, we have been in discussion with Mayo Clinic, and our first pilot will be in the US and with Mayo Clinic. We already have the support of Stanford, Mayo, and MD Anderson. Another reason we want to go to the US is because of the majority of Black women in the US, which they're usually basically based in the southern part of the US, and later we want to go to Europe. Another side is just the discovery that we have. We also could work with insurance companies. So this is one of our advisors, and our main goal here is to reduce worry for women during a very hard time with the high risk of metastasis of these very aggressive tumors that happen in, as I said, young women, Black women, or women with family history. This is our team. As I said, Anna is based out of Europe. I'm in Canada. I was a neuroscientist in my past life. Recently, made a transition from academia to industry, and now I'm working on my own startup and make this happen and give it back to the market. And right now we are raising about 1 million. We have public funding from Austrian government, about 300 USD. And yeah, and then, we've gone through some public incubators for this year. Yeah, so that's what we are. And if you have any question and would like to know more, definitely reach out to me and be happy to chat, especially investors or companies that would like to partner with us. I would be happy. Thank you. I'm Adreza.
Thank you, Marzijan. Thank you. Where are you right now?
I'm in Toronto, Canada.
Okay, perfect. Any question? We have one question here.
Good presentation. Are you going for PMI, or is there any other similar ones where you can go for 510K?
Sorry, I don't know what PMI is.
Okay, you said you were going for FDA, right? Approval.
Oh, FDA, yeah.
That's called, okay, you are in Canada, you probably have a different one. In USA, it's called PMI if you have doing it for the first time, first invention, etc. And if you are doing something that other people have done, it's called 510K. And it takes good number of years. We can talk about it in case you are interested.
Oh, sure. So, well, as I said, I was a data scientist and in academia, so maybe my knowledge in the building a startup is not that great. But we are learning as we are going through this journey. So, would be happy to chat, and if you are willing to help, I would love to get help from you. If you send me a message on LinkedIn or even drop your name here, I can definitely talk to you in private later.
Thank you. Any question? Yes, we have another one.
Hi, Marzijan. Thanks for a great presentation. I was wondering, you mentioned in your presentation that securing the fund helped you with the Mayo Clinic. How did you reach out to them initially as your potential first customer? Since they're like a huge organization with a big name, I was wondering about that. And also, my sister's an oncologist, so a lot of the material was very interesting. I could potentially connect you with her clinic based in California for additional stuff. Yeah.
Okay, that's amazing. For the first question, I would say that's been something my co-founder has been doing. Like, she has been in conversation with different people, but I just know the final award that they will be co-developing with us. I don't really know the name, but I can provide you later if I look at my emails. But, I'm more with the tech team, and maybe I'm not the best person to present this business, but yeah, she's been in discussion with Mayo Clinic. Yeah.
Thank you. And the last question.
And also, if I'm sorry for the second comment. If you send me a message on LinkedIn and connect me to the person you mentioned, that would be great. Grateful. Thank you.
Hi, I have your question about your goals. Do you have goals set that you're going to be a certain percentage more accurate than people reading it, or what is really going to make the real benefit? You've got to have actual goals that you're going to be better by more than just 10% better.
Yeah. So I would say that the major goal for me, it's actually a very personal I would say, issue for me to help this, tackle this disease because I have lost two people in my family from cancer. But in terms of like what we want to do, we want to make AI as an assistant to radiologists and oncologists. We don't want to remove anyone from the game. And in terms of like how we can improve, because for right now, what you're talking about is helping with the oncologists in the cancer treatment. We don't really have a baseline to say that, that I would say, okay, we're going to go 10% or 20%. I'm just hoping that we could make a change, and that change would be as big as possible. So that would be my dream if I could even increase it 10%, or if I could do something that would lead to less deaths, at least like 20%. But, I can't really answer that other than, you know, dreaming big and saying that I am doing my best to do something about it.
Thank you. Thank you. Now I'd like to invite Mr. Saeed Nesbat, great Saeed, our great moderator for tonight, and start the fireside chat. Saeed Jan.
Can you hear me? Oh, wow. Yes. Good evening. My name is Saeed Nesbat. I have the honor to run the fireside chat portion of the program tonight. But before I invite our guests to come over here and join me, I would like to bring up a couple of points. I want to make sure that you know why you're here. You're here to learn from the startups if you have a startup aspirations. You are here to energize your career if you're here and you listen to the guests to tell us about their journeys. And also you're here to make connections. Okay, this is a networking event as well as the learning event. To that end, one of our members, an innovator by itself, Mr. Ali Rostami. Ali John, stand up so I know where you are. Ali. Ali suggested, now everybody knows Ali, and Ali has his tag over there, and you have two colors over there. What is it? Black and blue. Well, it's not literally black and blue. You have black for? And blue is? Your field of expertise in AI. Excellent. So when you came at the beginning, thank you, Alijan, you can sit down. When you came at the beginning, there were dots, the colored dots, and each dot signifies an area. So people, before complaining, we don't know who's data scientist, who's in design, who's in biology, etc. So now you know. You can pick a dot that corresponds to the area that you are, and you may wear several of these dots if you want. And that way people know you, know what you're doing. Another point made a couple of times is people over there, if you're not participating in the program, please refrain from chit-chatting. It's really distracting over here. If you want to have a conversation, take it outside. Okay, and is there anything else? No, we walk into our program, and I'm glad to see both our guests are over here. Okay. Sure. Yeah, you're absolutely right. If we can do that, if people can register and tell us why they're here, then we can put it there. But this was a quick and easy way. This was a retrofit to this one, and I think it's working. A lot of people who has all the dots that they want on their card, on their badge. Okay, see, and you guys don't have it. Okay, you missed it. Next time you make sure you look for, or after the fireside chat part finishes, you may go over there and add it to your badge so people can identify you. I see many of you have them. Let's see. Now we move into our main program a fireside chat, and I need my phone as well as my glasses. Tonight we have we have two fireside chats with two industry leaders, one an innovation leader whose career path has spanned several giant technology powerhouses, and the other a professor and an entrepreneur who is teaching and working on innovations related to machine learning and machine vision. Our first fireside chat guest tonight is Golnaz Abdullahian. Golnaz is an expert in leading multidisciplinary teams of scientists, designers, and business developers focused on creating new paradigms of computing and new products using generative AI. Golnaz has been in key positions at companies such as Sony, Apple, and Microsoft, and she currently leads the Big Idea Innovation Organization at Dolby. Please help me welcome Golnaz Abdullahian. Golnaz, come over here. Welcome. Please go and sit over there. Is that on? Make sure it's on. Yeah. Okay, excellent. First of all, thank you very much for making the time and to come over here.
Thank you for inviting me. I'm glad to be here.
Let me see. As a way of quick introduction, I'll give you already a little bit. You have a PhD EE from Purdue, Stanford GSP in interpersonal dynamics for high performance executives, among many achievements that you have had. The first thing I want to ask you is why electrical engineering? What or who motivated you and influenced you to become an engineer?
Actually, growing up, I really loved physics and math, but I also liked art and making things. And I think, my first choice, I wanted to be a physicist, but when it came to choosing a major, I was being more practical about it. And I'm like, okay, what can I choose that is at the intersection of all these things that I love, but also maybe has a path to immigrating to US, for example, finding a job, and all those other reasons came to play as well.
So you were born and raised in Iran, right?
Yes.
And did you attend any university in Iran?
Yes.
Which one?
Sharif.
Okay, and you know what the next question is? You've been here. What was your concours rating?
I think 20 or 22.
You think 20? Okay, that's very impressive. Thank you. Who went to Sharif here? Raise your hands. Oh, come on. There's more than that. Okay. And I raised my hand for about a week. That's it. And you studied electrical engineering in Sharif?
Yes.
And after that, you went to Purdue?
Yeah.
Was there any reason you went to Purdue among like other colleges like Stanford?
So during my undergrad in Iran, I took a class in image processing. I think it was a master's class, and I fell in love with image processing. It was very visual, but had this mathematical elements. So Purdue had one of the strongest program in image processing, lots of professors. So when I applied, I got full funding for 4 years fellowship. So that was part of the decision.
That was the draw to Purdue.
Yeah.
That's very legitimate. You worked at Sony, Apple, Microsoft, and a few other places, and you're currently at Dolby. Tell us what excites you about your position at Dolby.
So I lead an organization called Big Idea Innovations, and it's trying to diversify Dolby's portfolio through creating new products, new experiences, new technologies. So we have a lot of different projects in many different fields, so that creativity part of it is very attractive to me, where we can, we're like, what is the unthinkable that you can think about and create for people in the future? So that's the part that is the most attractive part.
And there was a meeting last week. There was a big bash at Dolby. Tell us, what was that about? And what did you do? What did you present?
We had a tech summit where they brought hundreds of people from across the world into our San Francisco office, which is our headquarters. And it was all about AI and data. So the theme was data at Dolby. And there were many talks from engineering teams, research teams, ongoing products that Dolby has, but we also wanted to create like excitement about future and what it could be. So we created different concepts, more futuristic concepts around, what it could be, to just provoke thoughts across different things.
Well, it has to be more than that. A company hires you from, what was the previous company you were in? You were at Apple and then Microsoft?
Microsoft, yeah.
So they hire you out of Microsoft and they give you this team to innovate.
Yeah.
So there's got to be something to it. Forgive my ignorance, but Dolby to me is just a little sign on the stereo that gives you fancy sound. And also in the theater, you get this multiple 16 bands, and all that. Tell me, why is Dolby getting into AI, and what can you do with those?
Yeah.
I mean, that's the idea of innovation, go beyond the box, right?
Yeah,
Out of the
actually,
box.
a lot of people don't know about
So
Dolby's
tell us.
current business. Almost any device you use for entertainment, from cell phone, TVs, speakers, headphones, and cinemas, has Dolby technology, some kind of Dolby technology in it. We work with a ton of movie studios, musicians and music studios. We work with device manufacturers. We work with services, broadcast companies, all the OTTs like Netflix and Amazons of the world. And so we're kind of in the, we have built this ecosystem that goes from the content creator, that director, and that musician all the way to the device. So that's why we have a very strong ecosystem. We have a really good relationship with creators and the movie studios. So we're very well positioned to innovate in the entertainment industry.
Let me translate what I'm hearing. So you have quite a few patents, some technology has, and you do have a lot of sweet license deals that all these companies, all these media companies have to use and pay you. And you have this loads of money that you would like to use to create the next thing that is going to create more money for the company. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay, so what are the ideas, some of the ideas that came to you or to the team? I'm sure you've started. Something you can share with us. Or if you want to tell us some of the secrets we won't tell.
I mean, I can't share the specific ideas, but I mean, all of you know generative AI has been showing really interesting results for movies, videos, text, images. That's gonna revolutionize movie industry sooner or later. So we want to be there when it happens. So we're, working on a bunch of things around how can we make movie making more efficient, but also how to create experiences that never existed before and you couldn't imagine before. So part of it is all about that. We also want to get into devices we haven't been before. One of the things, for example, I was gonna give Vision Pro, but or HMDs, but we're actually Vision Pro has Dolby Vision, Dolby Atmos, but we want to do more in the areas of XR, immersive experiences, maybe ambient computing, and things like that.
I would like to interrupt this program to have one advertisement over here. Golnaz is looking for 2 innovation market analyst interns. Are you still?
No, we are actually hired.
You are actually hired. But I'm sure if you're persistent, she can find something for you.
But we have, for fall, we have 4 intern positions. So.
4 intern position for fall. So, okay, so that's not that far away. I am particularly intrigued by the fact that you were in the right environment in Microsoft when OpenAI's deal was presented and discussed. That's an important event in our time. Tell us what happened. Tell us as much as you can about how did it start, what was the excitement that it generated, what was the back and forth between OpenAI and Microsoft.
Yeah, that was an interesting time. I was hired into Microsoft Office of CTO in 2021. And so this CTO, who was my boss's boss, Kevin Scott, like it was his mission to make Microsoft #1 AI company in the world. He would always say that. And at the time, there was no relationship yet between OpenAI and Microsoft, but a lot of research was going on in Microsoft Research and all over the company. But then the conversation started with OpenAI, and I remember I went to this, I was like, last minute, I was invited to a meeting, and we were talking with this guy I didn't know, and turns out he was Sam Altman. And later, like I Googled him, like when the meeting was going on to. But then so rapidly things started happening. So Microsoft started, first of all, like the whole infrastructure, bringing all the models to Azure, how to optimize. And I would say without all those optimization efforts in Microsoft Research, OpenAI couldn't have scaled ChatGPT at the rate they could. But anyways, my team was focused on creating ideas on how Microsoft can leverage these models across all the products. So anything from gaming, Windows, productivity suite, and maybe even building new products. So I had a team of designers. We were working with different researchers, trying to kind of imagine what Microsoft can do. Then we would go to all these product teams, present some of the ideas. They would kind of start brainstorming what they could do. So then that
built the excitement.
Yeah.
About when was this?
Probably 2022 all the way to until I left in 2023.
Just a few months before the whole world got the note that this is going to happen. You also worked at Apple when Provision was being prepped to come to the market, and you had some contribution for that one. I want to ask you, I know Apple is very secret about how and what they do. What do you think about the future of Provision? You're no longer at Apple, so you can tell us.
I actually was part of the Vision Pro just early on about...
Oh, Vision Pro.
Yeah. When we were kind of, again, ideating what the use cases would be, what's the right way of interacting with the device, all the explorations around it. And in fact, when I was there, it was more, the emphasis was more on the AR side. So a lot of pivots happened since I left. So it was actually very interesting to me to watch the launch video and how Apple positioned it to be, which was maybe different from like those early thinkings.
So I am personally not very optimistic about, me or other people carrying a goggle around and seeing their, significant others in the form of the avatar and trying to relate to them. But who am I to say? But in your opinion, what does it take to innovate in the age of AI and ChatGPT? Because everything is already, targeted for AI to be taken over, and all those innovations will be done by AI, in my opinion. So, what is your opinion? What do we have to do to innovate?
Yeah, so to me, AI is a material. AI has been around for many years. This new wave of generative AI obviously is new to a lot of people, but it's another material. So I would say the first thing to do is get familiar with that material, know its capabilities and limitations, because whatever you design around it, you have to design not only for the success of the models, but for their failures. I think that would be as important as designing for success. So, yeah. I would say, like, if you're innovating with AI and understand that material well, still the way I would do it, I would always anchor it around a user problem, a human problem. And if you're solving a human problem using Gen AI or any other tool, if Gen AI is a better tool, more efficient, has better results, that's the right tool.
That is, if Gen AI allows us to do that. With AI becoming a part of almost everything, do you think we're just a few years away from having an AI that can pick out our clothes and tell us if we look good in them? Or should we stick to asking our significant others for now?
That's very near future that AI can.
Do you think that is going to happen? Now, the other thing is regarding the audience over here. What do you suggest for the entrepreneurs to learn and focus on in order to, you partially answered that, but in order to become successful in the future, given that the computing and software industry is going through a sea changes due to generative AI? What is it that we can do besides using it and become familiar with it?
Well, if you're thinking about certain domain or solving certain problem, I think that makes your case stronger. Also, one of the things that worries me is there are tens of thousands of startups in domain now. So you have to think about how you're gonna stand out. Like, if hundreds of other startups doing exactly the same thing that you are trying to do, you have to think about how you brand yourself, how to get ahead of the market. And if you already are positioned that you have access to certain market, leverage that, because it's gonna be hard to build that trust with the user if you're one of the hundreds of companies doing the same thing. So branding, marketing is gonna be super important in the future, in my opinion.
In our earlier conversation, you mentioned that there have been about 17,000 NVIDIA-backed ventures. Is that number correct? Is it that many?
That's just AI. So NVIDIA's venture have 17,000 investment in AI-related companies only. Now, can't all the...
How do they keep track of it? A very long spreadsheet, yeah, I know, yes. About NVIDIA and other big companies, in literature, particularly in the literature of the left, there's this concept of monopoly capitalism, which essentially says that the bigger companies will buy smaller ones, and eventually we'll end up with one company. And in the past, we've seen shifting tides that dominates of the dominance from Microsoft to Apple to Amazon, and at some point we thought it's Google, and potentially an AI giant, maybe NVIDIA itself. Which company do you think will be our benevolent overlord in the year 2030? Which one of these would you pick? Dolby?
Well, I hope, I mean, I really like seeing also the open source effort in this field. There's a strong community around open source models and open communities. I hope there's more effort on that so that we don't have overlords in the future.
So you're gonna sabotage that trend that is going to happen. Well, we depend on you for doing that. Being a woman in the industry that is dominated by males, what were the challenges that you faced and the opportunities that you took advantage of? Being an engineer in a technology field that is, generally dominated by men.
I have to think hard about opportunities.
Well, I had to throw it in. There's got to be two sides of a coin.
I mean, yeah, I'm not gonna lie, it's challenging. Most of the companies have about 10% women in this field. And in a lot of meetings, I remember I was being the only woman. And certain things are not expected of women. Disagreeing, pushing back, just, setting the boundaries is not really expected. And this is actually not just my experience. This comes from research where women are expected to be more agreeable, more pleasing, smiling and things like that. And I do feel that sometimes, even now, male colleagues that run big organization, if I ask for support, they're like, okay, is this within my charter? If not, sorry, we don't have the bandwidth. When I do it, it comes as a shock. And I can feel it. But I think what you have to be louder as a woman and ask for your rights and kind of sometimes fake it till you make it and just assume if you think you should be at the table, just assume you should be and play that role until they give it to you.
Thank you for that comment. My last question before I open the floor for some questions from you guys is, with your experience, with your extensive experience across top-notch companies, which one has the best coffee? And which one would you say does or will use AI to personalize and make your coffee just the way you like it?
Let me think.
That's the toughest question you've
I think Apple had just because I liked the spaceship cafeteria where you would go and talk to people and run into people. I love that setup. But Microsoft is probably the best position to create the AI base.
AI with a coffee that knows about you. Well, thank you very much, Golnaz.
Sure. Thank you.
We have time for a few questions. And as usual, when you get the microphone, please, which one? Over here, yes. Please say your name and your affiliation. And limit your questions to questions. If you want to make comments or tell us what you do, we should make an opportunity for you to come and sit over here for that.
Hi, thank you so much. Dariush Danishvar. I'm a patent attorney at Wilson Sonsini. I was curious that Dolby seems to be avoiding the medical healthcare space. Do you foresee that to continue, or do you think your big idea is to maybe get into that?
Great question. Actually, it's one of the areas I've been pushing since I joined. They're a bit afraid. I would say Dolby is very risk averse, and they're afraid of getting into FDA approval business. Although I've seen some work on our IP licensing side, but we're there is some initiative, maybe not like on diagnosis, but more on the in the wellness space, for sure.
Next question is coming from a lady over here.
Hi, I'm Anna Shabano. I have a question. Does Dolby
Did you say your name and affiliation?
Anna Shabano from 8 Orcas.
Thank you.
I want to know if Dolby has any project on quantum computing.
Not that I know of, actually. Sure.
Or if you know it, it's not determined yet because nobody had looked at that project.
True.
Over there. The gentleman in dark red.
Hello, my name is MJ. I'm a software engineer. First of all, thank you for your great chat. And I wanted to ask you that, well, you are clearly an outstanding person. And I wanted to ask, you have been always in the right, I think, industry throughout your resume. And what made you who you are, actually? What do you have, like, any key points that, I don't know if you were, for example, you were always looking for improvement, you were always looking for something specific, but what made you who you are? I'm not sure if I'm...
That's an interesting question. I mean, the way
What
I
made you
understood
different? Let's put it
your
this way.
question. First of all, thanks for your kind comment. I think, as I said, I always liked this intersection between art, creativity, and technology, and I always seek that. So when I went to Apple, for example, I was working on early stage product making, and then through that, I was working with this group of designers, and then I really enjoyed that, and I was working more and more. I got invited to just join the design studio. So for 2 years, I joined a design studio. I was the only non-designer. So I learned about, you know, that process that I really loved and I use for my work on everyday basis. But that kind of put me on this like kind of a non-linear trajectory. So I always try to either join a company or join a team which is at this intersection of art and technology. I think that's why I joined Dolby out of other companies.
And the last question goes to the gentleman over here.
Yeah, hi, Gonazjan.
Hi.
I am Sasan Mirazi. I am a data analyst with the State of California Department of Public Health. And so the way I see Dolby is just building sound system, whether on a small scale or larger, like movie theater stuff. And then you were talking about how to use AI in Dolby. And I just wanted to ask you, like, give us some examples. Like, let's say you use those AI applications and then you build a product, what that product could be. Like, because right now, if it is like, for example, examples I can think of, if it is like text to speech, like we have perfect product from 11 Labs. If it is text to music, then there is there are applications such as Udio that just do a perfect job. You just provide the lyrics, and then it makes the music based on those lyrics. So my question is, when Dolby get this all done and right, how does it look like? Or what are the examples of AI applications that Dolby is looking for?
Yeah, so Dolby is not just audio. Since I would say 15 years ago, they have Dolby Vision, which is basically high dynamic range in, as I said, in almost every TV, in your phones, in your monitors. Almost all computer monitors have Dolby Vision. If you guys have iPhone and capture a video, if you swipe up, you can see the Apple iPhone video is called Dolby Capture. So there's a lot of Dolby technologies maybe you haven't been exposed to, but it's like in different devices. So yeah, like if you're at the intersection of creativity and consumer, we can create all kinds of creativity tools. we can create all kinds of new experiences. Because 11 Labs is a good example. It creates maybe generative sound, but that's a tech demo, yeah? How do you create a product around it? How do you package it? Maybe how do you, just working with all the sound designers and musicians, we understand what kind of control knobs they need, what kind of maybe tools they need, and we're well positioned to build those. I'm not saying those are the only things, but you know, another example is AR, VR. Can we go, a lot of the content right now is either CG or stereo capture. Can you go beyond that? It makes a lot of people nauseous when they move their heads. But what if we come up with a new format and a new way of content that lets you move in that space? And these are like some examples, but
I'm sure there are many more questions. Golnaz will be available after the session, so you can come and ask direct questions from her. On behalf of Plug and Play, the Amidi Group, the Persian Tech Network, and the Iranian community, I would like to thank you very much for making the time and coming over here.
Thank you so much, Saeed-Jan.
And our next fireside chat is with Reza Zadeh, who is a scientist and entrepreneur working on distributed machine learning and computer vision. He is currently an adjunct professor at Stanford and the co-founder, CEO at Matroid, a company that uses deep learning to analyze computer vision to classify complex patterns with remarkable accuracy. Please help me welcome Reza Zadeh. Well, thank you for being here, for making the time.
Thank you for having me. Really appreciate it.
You have a PhD in computer science focused on machine learning. You teach at Stanford and you are at the helm of Matroid.
Yes. Yep.
But before we delve into that, I would like to know a bit about your earlier challenges, like in life. Where were you born and what obstacles did you have to deal with growing up?
So I was born in Ahvaz. So when I was born, apparently there were, so in the war zone with Iran and Iraq, apparently there were bombs flying overhead, and I don't remember any of it because the war ended when I was 2 years old, but my mom has stories of the bombs would wake me up as a baby. And apparently several of our neighbors' houses were destroyed. So I'm glad that my parents got me out of that around when I was 6 years old. We immigrated to England. So I grew up in London, England. I did 1 year of, and then we immigrated to Canada because England wasn't so good for immigration at the time. It was hard to become a permanent resident. Canada was more welcoming, so we went there. I did undergrad there, grad school in America. At that point, I was no longer with my parents, basically. So after college, I moved out, and then so I immigrated to America by myself and got initial jobs during undergrad at Google. And that started my machine learning journey. So I've just been focused on machine learning since I was 18, and now I'm 38. So just 20 years straight. I've been doing machine learning longer than I've done anything else at all.
And you were also yourself a learning machine, traversing through all these different cultures.
A learning machine, mostly machine learning. Yeah.
You were educated in England, in Canada, and finally in the US at Stanford. And you're a citizen of Iran, US, and Canada. Is that correct?
I'm definitely a citizen of Iran. Definitely a citizen of USA and Canada. I don't know if I'm still a citizen of Iran. It's
We accept you of honorary
yes. I'm definitely hanging out and very Persian. Yeah.
What do you say was the benefit of being immersed at these three different cultures and environments while you were growing up and while you were being educated? Flexibility, hardship?
So being an immigrant, everyone knows the difficulty of changing cultures and changing friend styles. People have different styles when they even interact. And that was very hard. I changed schools. So from, when you're in high school and middle school and undergrad and primary school, you're supposed to have 3 schools because there's 3 stages.
Yeah.
And it's 12 years of school. I had 13 schools in those 12 years. So it averages more than 1 school per year. And that's sort of similar to the immigrant experience. If you have several countries that you have to immigrate to, you have to redo your life, redo your friendships, redo your everything, right? Typically, you have to even redo your apartment after you move cities. So that's probably the biggest constant in my life is constant change until I moved to the Bay Area. I've been here now for 14 years. And it's the only place I've lived in longer than 8 years. So
this is where home is for you now.
Unclear, because I feel like home is Toronto.
Say yes.
Sure. I love the Bay Area. I mean, obviously, I love it so much that I stayed the most.
But you made the point that I was trying to drive at. I think part of your personality and character is formed tolerating all those hardships. 13 schools in 12 years, not being able to, have a constancy over there, makes you adaptable to changes. And that shows in your personality.
And it's a blessing, I think. It's hardship that is a blessing. There are some hardships that are good for you. This is definitely one of them. It's like running a marathon or something. Like it's hard, but it's actually really good for you.
Yes. I didn't ask you earlier, why did you go into computer science? What can you remember? Was it because you played games? What made you attracted to computers?
So that's such a hard question to answer because as long as I have memories, they were cool. So I don't, and when you're a kid, you don't really know why things are cool. They're just cool.
Yeah. And you coded early?
Not that early, like 16. A lot of my friends, I didn't have access to a computer until 16. So computers were cool when I was, 5, 6 years old, but I never had access to one until I was 15, 16, and then I started coding.
Access to one that you could code.
And I coded it to try and do well at a game called Counter-Strike. I don't know if anyone played Counter-Strike, but it was one of the first open source games. Like Half-Life game engine became open source, and then because it was open source, there was a lot of cheating. People would build aim bots that would automatically aim at your enemies' heads, and then you had no hope because anyone using a mouse versus an immediate aimbot would have no choice. So then I built a detector for that. So you would detect fast movements of the mouse. If anyone's mouse was like moving faster than a human could do it, I would tell the server owner, and then be like, look, this guy, like human reflexes are like, you're not going to be faster than 50 milliseconds to see a person and then move your mouse over them in the game. But if you're using an aimbot, you'd do it in like 10 milliseconds. So it's like very obvious. And you do it in a straight line most of the time. So you can see that if you're watching. And then there was this interesting evolution of the aimbots. Anyway, so I learned C++ from that.
Okay. That motivated you to do that.
Yeah.
I think part of your path in life, you mentioned online, it was influenced by Princeton University's ModeNet Challenge?
ModelNet.
ModelNet Challenge. Tell us about that. How did your success in that challenge affect your life? What was it about?
So there's this, many of you know about ImageNet, right? I bet if I ask, how many people know about ImageNet? Put your hand up if you know about ImageNet. Oh, not that many. Weird. Okay, so ImageNet is a competition out of Stanford that made deep learning popular. It was the reason that deep learning came onto the scene. It was a data set of millions of images, and you had one of 1,000 classes that these images could be, and then you had to classify images, and then that competition is what Jeff Hinton won along with Ilya Sutskever and Alex of AlexNet fame. That competition, they won that, they did well, and then deep learning became legitimate. And then because at the time I was a Stanford PhD student, I wasn't allowed to compete in ImageNet. So then when Princeton put out a similar competition, which is instead of classifying images, you classify 3D objects. So you're given a 3D object, like a CAD model, but in voxels, and then you have to decide what it is. A few thousand classes. So we did that. We did a really good job in that after I started Matroid. So I had started Matroid. I had some funding. I had students. So I figured, hey, let's attack this. And we did very well on it. I wouldn't say it was like as pivotal of a moment or even close to it as ImageNet was for, say, Jeff, because deep learning was already very clear, and we used deep learning to win it. So it was just like a really useful thing to make Matroid a little bit more legitimate. Matroid was a young, fledgling company. We're now 8 years old. At the time that we did it, we were 7 years old. People were like, why should we care about you? And at the time, this was nice. But now, no one even knows what it is, right? Like ImageNet, people still know what it is. So it was one competition out of many that we did well on, that I'm proud of. But its name might make you think it's like really pivotal. But I think it was at the time useful, but probably no longer. Yeah.
Was your glaucoma detection project motivated by the same thing, or was there a personal story behind that one, or was it just?
Oh yeah, so that's a funny story. I had similar to this, someone invited me to come give a talk in Hong Kong. It happened to be a professor in the Stanford School of Medicine. So I went to Hong Kong, met this professor there. We hadn't met we thought we hadn't met at Stanford. I went over there, gave the talk, and then in dinner in Hong Kong, he's like, yeah, I screen patients for glaucoma. And I say, oh, I am a glaucoma suspect. I don't have glaucoma, but I have to get checked for it on occasion. I go to Stanford Hospital to get checked, and he's like, oh, I see the patients there. So it turns out that he's my doctor, and the only reason that I didn't know, and he sees hundreds of patients, right? So if you ever talk to a doctor, like many doctors don't know their patients. Especially the specialized doctors, where you just talk to the doctor for an hour, and that's it. That's your whole relationship with this doctor. Once every 2 years you see the doctor. They're not going to remember. So he didn't know me. I didn't know him because whenever I meet with him, I have my contact lenses out, and they put all kinds of stuff in your eyes you can't see. So I've seen this guy. I've hung out with him, but I never seen him before. And in Hong Kong, I didn't know that he was my doctor either. And the only reason we figured it out is I went back and I looked in my emails, and I was like, oh yeah, Robert Chang, I saw you like 5 years before this talk. So my own doctor had invited me to come give a talk on computer vision. So then we became friends. We started a project to detect glaucoma automatically using computer vision. Some poetic justice to that, using the computer's vision to look at human vision to make human vision better.
And did you use some of the results that with the ImageNet that you had developed for doing glaucoma, or?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, ModelNet. Yeah. So we had some 3D scans. OCT scans are three-dimensional. Yeah, it's kind of cool. OCT is amazing. They basically shoot lasers into the back of your eye, and they get several cell layers deep imaging of the back of the eye, which is wild. But it does mean that you have a 3D image of the back of the eye, which then you need to diagnose for things, and you would use a three-dimensional deep learning model, which is it's exactly what we used. Yeah.
Let me ask you about machine learning challenges and opportunities or promises. In your field, this is your field of expertise. What do you see the most exciting developments in the field of machine learning and machine vision? are there any particular applications in this area that you believe will revolutionize our daily lives?
Yes. So I'm really, really looking forward to, and I think it will happen very soon, the fully automated factory. So right now we're able to sense almost anything about a manufacturing process, but we're pretty bad at actuating differences. So robotics basically has a longer way to go than sensing does. Sensing recently has undergone, in the past, when I say recently, I mean in the past 7, 8 years, has become really, really good. We can sense almost anything and see almost anything that the human eye can see, and
even better, because you
and
can
somewhat comprehend it now with LLMs. But the actuating the world and changing things about the world is still far away. But I am seeing now more rapid progress than I've ever seen. So I reckon that'll happen in the next 5 to 10 years. And then we'll get to a point where we have automated factories. Automated factories mean that the cost of something is almost like the cost of the raw materials and the electricity to build it. So right now, we're sensing all kinds of new things in factories at Matroid that get me really excited, and I'm seeing the gradient of how that's becoming more and more automated. And that, to me, is just super exciting. So the ability to have these automated factories just feels like it'll sort of explode humanity. Like so many things will become
So automated
easy.
manufacturing is one. What are the other areas in Matroid that you're working on or targeting that relates to daily life? I mean, yes, it's nice for me to get a product that is made cheaper, but in my daily life, when I wake up in the morning until I go to bed, how would machine vision improvement or advances change my life?
So to be honest, Matroid is we're completely a B2B company. So we have never sold a consumer anything.
I'm not the customer. Okay.
Yeah. So almost everything that you hear about, though. So let me put it this way. So we inspect spaceships that go into all the spaceships. All like several that have gone to the moon have been inspected by Matroid. So hopefully one day we're riding on those spaceships and going up. Many of the cars that you drive have been inspected by Matroid. But we are 100, we're 100% a tool in the factory. So the things that the factory make touches people's lives, and I can see them, and I get super excited by seeing
You're
them.
the Dolby of manufacturing.
In many ways, yes. Except Dolby has more of a consumer presence than us, I think, because at least you know that little logo, the Dolby logo on, my headphones, and I know at Vision, Atmos, and things like that. So I think Dolby has more of a consumer presence than we do, actually.
Well, I expect so. They have been around a lot longer.
Sure, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, maybe we should do that. We should start asking, like, if we give our factory customers a discount if they put Matroid logos on their stuff.
There's an idea.
That'd be fun.
I'll get a cut of that. As a professor at Stanford, how do you see the integration of AI and machine learning and machine vision changing the landscape of education? What are some innovative ways AI can be used to enhance teaching and learning experiences?
Interesting. So the funny thing is, I recently went the other way on this. So I have been teaching for 11 years now. And during COVID, I was forced to take all my classes online. Everything was recorded video, interactive stuff. And I was like, great. So technology embraced. But then the classes suffered greatly. The students weren't learning as much. They weren't as happy. And then I just finished teaching, and I undid 5 years of adding technology to my class. So I did lectures. Not only did I do lectures, I didn't use slides. I actually used the whiteboard, and wrote down stuff. And that forced me to slow down sufficiently well that I had to explain everything as I'm writing. So as I'm writing, I have to explain everything. So there's no room for not being clear because I have to explain it to myself as I'm writing it. So in some sense, that really helped, which is strange. And so I am not like one of these guys that will tell you MOOCs are the best thing ever, and and you should learn everything online. Actually, I have beginning to realize that if you watch someone else learn something, that's actually the best way to learn it. Like watching someone learn how to do something is an incredible learning device, and probably one of the most powerful learning devices. Yes, you can learn from someone who already knows a thing, but actually watching your classmate suffer over an assignment and have epiphanies while you're working with them is, I think, more of a learning tool than, I don't know, whatever an LLM can do at the moment. Maybe we can get LLMs to show you those steps, then we can, and then that'll help. But honestly, I've gone like make education great again path. I've gone back in time.
That's fascinating.
Yeah.
So it's sharing the aha moment between the teacher and the student that cannot be perhaps yet replicated by AI.
Yeah, and also between students. So the aha moments that the students see together. Yeah.
Learning teams. Now I want to seek your advice for the audience over here. Given the rapid advancement in AI and computer vision, what key advice would you offer the entrepreneurs who want to stay ahead of the curve and successfully navigate the ever-changing landscape of these technologies? What should they focus on to innovate and thrive in this dynamic field? What do you suggest for them? They're all ears.
Probably the biggest thing is assume that anything you write in code will become obsolete. Yeah, that's probably the right thing. So anything that you write in code that you think is going to be super, that has any kind of interest, like if it has value, if you wrote something and the value is entirely in the code, not in the, say, data, or not in some IP, or not in some connections, or not in some network that results from that code, but just the code itself, you should assume that that will become worthless because of open source. And that has worked really well for me, and I think it's just true because there's a lot of incentive for a lot of different people to make code worthless. That's what open source does. It's fun to code. There are actually lots of people who find it fun, like a 15-year-old building an aimbot detector. Yeah. That was just code, and so open source will make almost everything
transparent.
Yeah, worthless. Yeah, it will make almost everything worthless. And I'm not saying AI will make everything worthless. It's not going to be because some magical AI super being is going to do it. It's just open source. Other humans will do it. And so what you should build is something else that is valuable. So you should build a familiarity with your user interface. You should build a network of users. Somehow they interact with each other. You should build some flywheel that involves interactions of humans with your product, and the code is merely the thing that enables that. And then you'll have some staying power. You'll have the ability to have a company, and companies need decades to become big. So, and your code is only valuable for like a year or two or three, and then it's worthless. So you got to build something else, and you can use these 1 or 2 or 3 year spurts of code that you write to build one of these networks in advance of other people. So never assume that your code is worth anything, basically. Okay. You're always in service of some other network that you're building, and if you're not doing that, you're probably doing something wrong.
Thank you for that. And for my last question, before I open it to the questions in the audience, if you had a crystal ball powered by the latest AI technology, what would it predict for the year 2030? And if it starts giving stock tips, should we trust it?
If it starts getting stock tips?
Yeah.
No, definitely don't trust it if it starts giving stock tips. I would say the biggest there's like a worry that perhaps there'll be less of a need, say, for programmers or coders, because AI is going to write all the code. So I would bet that in the year 2030, so just 6 years from now, there'll be way more software engineers than there are now. So we had a similar event at Matroid, and someone was like, I think there'll be no need for software engineers anymore in 5 years. So I'm like taking the hard opposite side of that. Despite all these code generators, I think we're going to have, say, probably 5 to 10x more software engineers in the world in 6 years. We're still not going to have self-driving cars, unfortunately, in 6 years.
We will not.
We will not.
No.
So this is, again, another contrarian point of view that I have. I'm sorry. I wish we did. I wish I could say it's the other way. But we're not going to have, despite all the efforts, that like, there are some still very, very, very serious big breakthroughs that are needed. Maybe they'll happen. I hope they happen. I don't think they'll happen in 6 years. I think they'll happen in 10 or more.
Okay.
Yeah. I guess, one side or the other. And then the factories will become more and more automated in a dramatic way. That is happening today. And
things become cheaper.
That's for sure, yeah.
And all the factory workers will become programmers because there are a lot of them.
Well, yeah, that's what I mean. There's going to be more software engineers. So engineering and software engineering will become more and more like woodworking and carpentry and welding. So you start picking up sub-skills of it in high school.
We will see. Well,
and that's why your code is worthless, because there's going to be hundreds of millions of more software engineers. Yeah.
Right. Well, thank you very much for all your insights.
Thank you for having me. Really appreciate it.
We have time for a few questions if you raise your hand. The lady over here. You're next. And we have Hossein in the back, yes.
Hi, thank you for the great talk. I'm here. My name is Mahvash from Amgen. I wanted to ask about like the logic behind this, like saying, okay, we will have like 5 times, 10 times more software engineers. Thank you.
It's just that the value that machine learning and software creates, there's no end in sight to it. Just having this new generation of generative AI engineers, machine learning engineers, I see like every single industry is going to be rewritten because of our advances in machine learning and software engineering, and that it's nowhere near happening. It really is like the new writing. Like being able to use a computer is as powerful as being able to write. So 2,000 years ago, whatever it was in Babylon, Iran, whatever, we learned to write, and we're still writing. It's going to be like that. Like we're going to be using computers for as long as humans exist.
The gentleman in the back.
Hi, Reza Jan. Thank you very much for the talk.
Thank you.
My name is Seper. I'm a solutions architect at Amazon Web Services. Used to be at Azure, Microsoft Azure. We use Databricks a lot.
Nice.
I know you're one of the founders. I just didn't. I was eager to you tell me the story of. For those people who don't, probably most of people knows about Databricks, but it's data analytics software, and it's used in Azure and AWS. It's big, and you're one of the founders.
So I'm on the founding team, not exactly a founder, but founding team. So I met. So the creator of Spark and I were on the same programming team at Waterloo when we were 18. So that's how I got into Google. So we were on the same programming team. We both went to Google for internships, and that was our first time in Silicon Valley in 2005-ish. And so we met there, and then eventually Matej Zaharia went to Berkeley for a PhD, I went to Stanford for a PhD, and before he started Databricks, we were working on Spark and things related to it. And then he started Databricks, and I immediately started working with him on it. And and now it's I still help Databricks. I'm still actively, my contract is active. I'm still helping them. Like I'm having dinner with Matej next week. This is a $50 billion company now. It's kind of amazing, and at the helm of that is another awesome Iranian Ali. So maybe we should try and get him here one day. he'll be excellent as well. Yeah, I mean, it's just an excellent company, and highly recommend you try it if you have more than I don't know. Nowadays, it's probably like 50 terabytes of data to deal with. You should be using Databricks.
Hussein in the back.
Hi, my name is Hossein. I'm founding team member at a robotics company called Foundation.
Hussein, can you stand up so people see
I don't quite see you. There you are, hidden.
I'm Hossein. I'm a founding team member at a robotics company called Foundation. We are building humanoid robots. I have a question. Where do you think humanoid robots are going to be a thing? And then from now until the actuation that you talked about, that's going to take place. How much of that do you think is traditional control versus AI?
I think almost none of it will be traditional control. So I fly planes as a hobby, and I built a plane, and I totally replaced. And PID controllers are the bread and butter of traditional control. If you don't use PID controllers at all, and you like machine learning PID control, I would say at that point you've thrown away traditional control. And I built my plane with an autopilot where I completely learned the control algorithm versus use PID, and it did so much better in almost every way. Like I have it can hover, and I put a bunch of fans around it, and the fans are turning on and off randomly to create turbulence, and then it just hovers like rock steady because of its good PID control, because of its good machine learned control versus PID control. And that just shows itself everywhere in robotics. Everywhere you have an interaction with a surface, everywhere you have slightly nonlinear forces, PID control and traditional control goes out the window. And machine learning does really well. And so I think basically in the same way that computer vision was just completely destroyed and replaced with machine learning, I think control needs to be completely destroyed and replaced with machine learning. And so that's where the advances will come from with regard to finally, and that's where, basically it'll start having us have well actuated joints and limbs, but then the planning phase is the marrying of that with sensing. That is almost certainly going to be also machine learning heavy. But that's a little bit further. Like I'm a little bit less sure what will take over there. There needs to be a breakthrough, and I'm not like I can't say, oh, that's for sure going to be pure deep learning. There might be just a model that we don't know about. That's about as much as I know. So it's very, very hard to really know these things. Happy to have a deeper conversation with you on it. You probably know a lot more about it than I do.
Well, you have a question? No. The last question goes to the gentleman over here who is getting prepared. John over here, up front.
I don't see.
Oh, right here, up front. Yes.
Hi, hello. Thank you very much for the great conversation. So my question is,
what is your name and what is your affiliation?
Oh yeah, my name is Ralph. I have a startup company in robotics. So my question is the follow-up to that question. So there's a major question in robotics. So many companies are trying to build a general purpose humanoid robots, and other companies are trying to build a specific task-oriented robot. So what's your opinion? Where's the market for those products? And what advice you could give someone just building a company? Which field is better? And if it's, for example, general purpose humanoid robot being very popular at this moment, Figure recently raised $600 million with $1 billion valuation. So what is their vision by building a general purpose humanoid robots, and how far we are close, or how far we are close, or what is your opinions about that? Thank you.
So the reason folks are building humanoid robots is because we want to use them in human situations. We want them to be able to easily open a door, but then also go and torque some bolts, but then also go and pick up something. So basically, the sequences of tasks that seem to be most economically valuable are those that humans seem to do. So people are trying to build a humanoid robot in order to, it's because of the economic value that they're trying to build a humanoid robot, because it's the most flexibility in the real world, because we built the real world for humans. Obviously, robots have existed forever. specialized robots doing specialized things have existed forever. Because of this flurry of activity on the software side in control and in vision and in machine learning that has enabled a large amount of progress in other fields like self-driving cars, people are now hopeful that we can start working towards the hardware and the software in conjunction for humanoid robots. I'm of the opinion that the software side of that is still too soon. So, why? I think it's a bit too soon to actually start building humanoid robots unless you have almost as big of a bet on the software side. So if you're a company that is trying to do such a thing, and let's say you raise $100 million, you better use 50 of it for the software almost entirely. Probably more of it, actually. So you really have two companies and two big bets there that you can build something that is actuated almost like a human, and then as much money, if not more, into the software side of things. And being a software guy and understanding the software challenges, I'm more inclined to say just put all the money in software, and then the hardware will come about when the software is closer to maturity. But of course, that's kind of a weak statement, because if you're also good at hardware, you could do both. And if you're really ambitious, you'll do well at both, and you'll be in a situation where now you have both a software moat and a hardware, maybe not a moat, but an advantage, a lead. So that's the reason that Optimus exists at Tesla. And if, from my point of view, the software problem is harder, and it isn't solved at all. Because if you had a human and human software, so if you basically had an AI level software at the helm of a intuitive surgical robot or a robot, a car or whatever, you would be able to solve that problem. And yet we can't solve those problems yet. So it feels premature to go ahead and assume that we're going to solve everything that a human can do and build the hardware of a human before we even have simpler robots doing their tasks correctly. Simpler robots being self-driving cars and other simple robots, like even a pet. So I'm just thinking that it's premature, this investment into humanoid robots, and I think slowly most of their funding will go into the software side of things, trying to do the software correctly, and I think that's healthy. And I hope that that spurs a large amount of research, and we'll get to a point where then we have the software solved, and then we can start working on the hardware. That's my guess as to what will happen, and so I'm really excited by it. It means that we're going to have a large amount of software investment into robotics. It's awesome. Yeah, but I don't know how to make money off of it, to be clear, because it seems like a very hard problem right now.
If you have more questions, Reza would be available after the session. And now, on behalf of the Amidi Group, Plug and Play, Persian Tech Network, and the Iranian community, I would like to thank you for making the time to come over.
My pleasure. Thank you so much for having me. It's an awesome, awesome group. Thank you so much.
I'll take that. Don't worry about it. Well, thank you very much for being here tonight. That concludes our fireside chat. Remember, get the dots that corresponds to your expertise or your area, and talk to strangers. See you next month.